Hello and welcome to Folsom Field. I am Matt Smith for Mile High Sports. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hello and welcome to the Coors Event Center. I am Matt Smith for Mile High Sports. Thank you very much for tuning in. And one thing that I have to point out, Denver 11-2 this season when holding their opponent under 100 points. And I think the more interesting number, TJ, 4-6 when scoring under 100 themselves. That number, I haven't checked it from last year, but that had to be way worse.
They had one win last year where they scored under 100 points.
They're already 4-6 under 100 points. Impressive stuff from the Nuggets.
You can only get so many chances to beat a really good team like that before they close the door on you. And that's exactly what happened.
And the other guy who had a very efficient night, and he only took 5 shots, was 3 of 5 from the field, was Nikola Jokic, who had 13 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. And after the game, he was asked about only taking those 5 shots, and he immediately responded with, but they were good ones, weren't they?
Now, the one thing that Washington does that really piques my interest is they are leading the Pac-12 in both steals and blocks, playing in a 2-3 zone defense, which means they rotate pretty well on the whole, they communicate, and they're playing a whole new brand of basketball up there under Coach Hopkins, because they certainly were doing none of that under Lorenzo Romar.
Following a 2016 campaign where they won the Pac-12 South and at 10 wins went worst to first, in the Pac-12 South they go last, first, right back to last, and a very disappointing finish for the Colorado Buffaloes football team, who many, including myself, expected to make their way back to a bowl game this season.
This opportunity's gone. You know, he didn't really buy into the whole, we'll go back, look at the film, get better. No, this is a missed opportunity for Colorado. They're now 6-1 on the season. CSU back to 4-4.
Right.
And the Rams once again defend their home court, Rich, and a big win for CSU, who has Arkansas and then Oregon on the road, both of those games next.
Happy New Year from the Pepsi Center. I am Matt Smith, and this is Anilo Piro back with us for Mile High Sports. Thank you very much for tuning in. Well, Anilo, the Nuggets got off to 2018 on the right foot. They take down the Suns 134-111. It was Phoenix's 3rd game in 4 nights. They actually arrived this morning. The Nuggets took advantage, and over these first 2 months, in January and February, where they have 17 of 25 at home, they got off to the right start, taking care of business like they needed to.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, they were kind of slow to start this one out. Michael Malone kind of made the comments of, we looked like the team that flew in today to play the game. So after, you know, the first couple quarters subsided, Malone said he was very blunt in his halftime kind of speech to the team. Let's play some defense. Let's get this thing going. That's exactly what they did. I believe they outscored Phoenix 37-18 in the 3rd quarter, if I remember correctly. So really just an onslaught of performance from the team in the second half, specifically Gary Harris, who tied a career high tonight with 36 points. But yeah, they're rising to the occasion. And another thing with the Nuggets is their resiliency is starting to take center stage. Another game in which the first half was not, you know, necessarily their strongest, but they managed, you know, to battle back and ultimately win this game big.
Early on, we thought it might be another game that they were going to blow another lead, because they did in the first half. Phoenix would take the 67-61 lead at halftime, but Denver, like you said, outscores Phoenix 37-18 in the 3rd quarter, and in the second half, 73-44. A dominant defensive performance by the Nuggets in the second half, and we asked Nikola Jokic about it after the game, and he said, I just think we defended. He was pretty nonchalant in his answer. He didn't think they did much different other than play some defense, which was good to see. After the 14-point 3rd quarter lead they blew the other night to Philly in this building.
Yeah, I don't want to sound too generic here, but this is the reason I didn't ask it to Malone, but I mean, it kind of seems like the difference between this team playing well and not is effort on defense. It's not necessarily their capabilities of talent level. It's more so, do they want to put forth the proper amount of effort to play, you know, a high level of defense in which they can compete amongst all the other teams in the league. We've seen them in spurts be able to do that. I think, you know, the biggest problem with this team overall in all facets has been their consistency. Most specifically on defense has kind of been what's hurt them here most throughout the season. But certainly, I mean, a good thing to see that, you know, when the going gets tough and they realize the circumstances, that they're able to, you know, elevate their play.
You know, Anilo, I'm just thinking back to last season now. If the Nuggets in a second quarter would have allowed their opponent 76% from the field and gotten outscored 41-27 in the second quarter, they probably don't win that game.
Oh, without a doubt, no.
Yeah, good signs to see tonight from Denver, who took care of business against a Suns team that Coach Malone afterwards mentioned, listen, we should have beaten this team. It was their third game in 4 nights. They just got here today, and that's got to be the theme of 2018 is taking care of business. And tonight, starting the new year off on the right foot, like Anilo mentioned, Gary Harris, who was electric in the first half, had a career high for points in a half in this first half, 28, finishes tonight with 36, and he was pulled with 2 minutes left. I think he could have gotten that career high.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, there was ample opportunities.
Ample opportunities.
So yeah, but Gary, the definition of a selfless player. He doesn't care about the stats. He doesn't care about career highs or anything like that. He wants to win. He put in his work tonight with the 36 points. But at 20 points in the first quarter, Matt, that is absolutely berserk. I mean, it really is. It's nuts. So, I mean, I've always been a big advocate for Gary Harris. I think, 2 or 3 years down the line, you're going to be talking about him and Nikola Jokic in the same breath of air, just in terms of their impact for this team. I think he's that good. But again, tonight is more so just a microcosm of what he's been able to bring to this team offensively and also defensively. His perimeter defense continues to be a strong suit of his. Really, the Nuggets continue to thrive off his performance. When he plays well, so does the rest of the team.
Tonight, one of the big bounce back areas that I really like to see is after shooting just 21% from the 3-point line the other night against Philly, which was actually a stretch of just 1 game in 5 days for the Nuggets, they come out tonight, shoot 44% as a team. Good to see them back on track from downtown. Obviously, like we talked about after the game the other night, those were uncharacteristic numbers. The Nuggets were going to come back, and it was good to see that offensively. Listen, they score 134 points tonight. This team scored some points. There were 7 in double figures.
Yeah, exactly. Jokic, I believe, was how many?
14.
There were so many different.
I think he had 14 tonight.
Lyles had double-digit points. Jokic, Harris. I think Jamal had double digits. Mason Plumlee as well. Wilson Chandler's another guy.
Will Barton, and also Kenneth Faried. Yes, that's right. Kenneth Faried.
I believe the first game he's played in 7 games.
I think it's 8, 7,
something like
7
that.
or 8.
Kenneth has not played in a long time, let's put it that way. But Malone, kind of lived up to his promise of I'm going to expand the rotations. So Kenneth Faried gets some run. You saw Malik Beasley get some extended minutes. Torrey Craig continues to do what he's doing. But really, this team is buying in together, and I think that's the big thing that you're kind of seeing that's unifying them moving forward.
To bring up what Anilo's talking about here, Malone the other day at practice made some comments that he felt like he was playing, Gary, Nikola, Jamal, Trey Lyles. The Nuggets have been leaning on those guys quite a bit in the month of December. Over his last 5 games before tonight, Gary Harris had averaged 38.2 minutes. Malone said he'd really like to trim that down to around 34. Tonight he only played 32. And we saw Malik Beasley and Kenneth Faried early in this game. And listen, the Nuggets back to a 10-man rotation for the most part. I think they actually might have played 11 at the end of this one. But the bottom line here is that if the Nuggets can get some rest for these guys, for their stars, while they have the luxury of doing so with, when you're not playing against a lot of playoff teams, which they don't in January, and you have so many games at home, you can get this team well rested to make that stretch run when the schedule in March becomes one of the toughest months of the season.
Absolutely brutal. And it's going to be interesting to see how this all kind of plays out. I mean, we kind of talked about it, a little bit earlier in a microcosm of the sense of, different guys needing to step up in different ways. And I mean, I think Malone is really still trying to figure out this team and what he has and what, which way the roster is configured the best to play their strongest senses and whatnot. So, you saw a 7-man rotation there for a little bit, but I think Malone, as he learns, Kenneth Faried is better in this situation. Malik Beasley is better in this situation. That's when you're going to start to see them get a little bit more injected back into these rotations. Malone is becoming smarter as a coach as the games go along.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Will Barton, other note, he had the flu-like symptoms tonight, so he did have 12 points, though. Definitely not his best game by any stretch, but the Nuggets with a very solid win at home. It was the second of their 3rd game homestand. They're now 1-1 on the homestand, I should say, and they wrap up on Friday night against the Utah Jazz. Anilo, I think moving forward here, Denver just has to find the consistency on a night-to-night basis. And like I said earlier, you have to take care of business. When you have games at home against teams you're supposed to beat, this is the time when a playoff team rises to the occasion, and we will see if the Nuggets can do that in 2018.
Yeah, without a doubt, this is a team that is, still learning to play within themselves. So they're going through some growing pains right now. They've been good at weathering some of them. They've struggled in other aspects and whatnot. But overall, we've talked about their improvement of play at home. We're seeing the defense pick it up. You're seeing the improvement from last year and the year before that to now.
Definitely.
So obviously, slow and steady wins the race for this team. That's kind of the track that they're committed to. But again, an impressive victory nonetheless tonight against the Phoenix Suns.
Jazz in here on Friday night. Nuggets Nuggets rolled them just a few weeks ago, so I'm sure Utah will be looking for a little revenge there. And the Nuggets will look to go streaking as they snapped a 2-game losing streak. Tonight, they get back on the right track. Aniello Piro, Matt Smith, thank you as always, and make sure you tune in to milehighsports.com for all your exclusive Nuggets coverage, and follow along on Twitter at Real Matt Smith, that's Matt with 1 T, and at APiro Sports.
That's me.
For everything Nuggets. Until next time, thanks for joining us. I am Matt Smith for 5280 Sports Network. Thanks so much for tuning in. Well, Colorado knocks off the UCLA Bruins in a sloppy, ugly ball game. For the second week in a row, the Buffaloes come out victorious. Now a 3-game winning streak for Colorado as they defeat UCLA for the first time since joining the Pac-12. The Buffaloes entered the year 0-18 in Pac-12 play against Stanford, Oregon, Arizona State, and UCLA. Against those 4 schools this season, Colorado is now 4-0. They lead the Pac-12 South. It was a gritty, gutty football game and a very uncharacteristic performance from this Colorado Buffaloes football team, who come out on top 20-10 over this UCLA Bruins squad. The Buffs overcame 4 first-half turnovers to beat the Bruins, yet only went into halftime down by 3 points. There are a lot of signs that this Buffs team is making the turn and really is for real. And another one once again tonight, that when your offense is not clicking, this is the second week in a row, however, that your defense can step in. The #1 defense in the Pac-12 proved it again tonight. They extended their nation's longest streak of forcing a takeaway to 22 games tonight with a 51-yard interception by Kenneth Olabode. This is not a game that Colorado should be very happy with, even though they haven't beaten UCLA since joining the Pac-12. The Buffs had 12 penalties for 128 yards, 4 personal foul penalties, dead ball, just dumb decisions, to be quite honest. There were a lot of things that were not characteristic of this football team and what they've accomplished this season. The fewest penalties a game in the Pac-12 entering this contest, and Colorado, I think they let UCLA get under their skin a little bit. I also think that the calls weren't going the Buffs' way, and that's something that Colorado really hasn't dealt with this season. Against USC in that game in Los Angeles, the Buffs dealt with a little bit of adversity there in the first half with some penalties that really, really hurt them, some bad self-inflicting mistakes. And tonight, once again, there were some really brutal decisions, especially on the defensive end, but this defense was what kept the Buffs in the game again, and they prove it week after week. Although they lost Jimmy Gilbert to a targeting ejection, I believe the second play of the game, defensively, that was a huge blow for this Colorado defense, and Jimmy had really been the Buffs' lone pass rushing threat this season. Gilbert led the entire country in forced fumbles coming into this game, top 10 in sacks in the Pac-12. That's a guy that Colorado is not used to having to play without. They lost Derek McCartney earlier in the year, and I think it was a very interesting it added a very interesting dimension to this game to see that Ryan Moeller, Christian Shaver, and also NJ Fallow, Taryn Hasselbeck made a nice play. All those outside linebackers really got together and made up for the loss of Jimmy Gilbert, which was very evident. Colorado had a hard time getting to Mike Faithful. The Buffaloes held UCLA to 210 yards of total offense. UCLA against Utah 2 weeks ago put up 510 yards. The Buffs actually hold the Bruins in this one to 25 yards rushing on 30 attempts. Offensively, it was a lackluster night. Sefo Liufau now second week in a row, not his sharpest, very self-critical in the post-game press conference, taking ownership of the mistakes and saying that he will correct them. Pretty much across the board message from this Buffs team that these penalties were an anomaly and that they will get this corrected and it will not happen again. Of course, the loudest proponent of that
argument was head coach Mike McIntyre, who noted several times that that will not happen again, and I believe him in that regard. That was very strange and a chippy game. This UCLA series has been really tough ever since Colorado joined the Pac-12. The last two games against the Bruins, a double overtime loss, 40-37, then losing last year 35-31. There was a lot of bad blood, I think, between these two teams, but it was sorted out on the field. Certainly not a pretty game, and you have to give the Buffs a lot of credit. They had not turned the ball over with Sefo Liufau under center one time since the first quarter of the season, where they had one turnover. Phil Lindsay, a fumble in that first quarter against CSU. Hadn't turned the ball over in 18 straight quarters. Then they have 4 turnovers in the first half, once again learning to bounce back. A lot of adversity to deal with tonight, and Colorado did a nice job. There was a play specifically in that third quarter tonight where Sefo had his face mask grabbed as he rolled out of the pocket and it collapsed. He looked directly at the official, screaming for a face mask penalty. That official didn't call it. One with a worse angle did. Sefo turned his head upfield, completed the ball to Philip Lindsay for a first down, and they drove down the field, kicked a field goal. Chris Graham tonight in that field goal unit, 2 of 3, a low kick on that first made field goal. Davis Price should be back next week, which is big news for the Buffaloes. Sitting at 7-2, they need to get things right here, heading to play their final regular season game on the road at Arizona, and they are going to need this offense to continue to get back to what it was at the beginning of the season. All of a sudden, Phil Lindsay has become the main offensive weapon for Colorado and pretty much their only offense. Phil Lindsay had 35 touches tonight. He had 24 carries, 73 yards on the ground and a touchdown, 11 catches for 76 yards. That not only sets a career high in receptions for Phil Lindsay, that is the most receptions by a Colorado running back in school history. Phil tonight with a lot of plays out of the flat, gaining good chunks of yardage. The Buffs did a good job getting these safeties and these linebackers of this UCLA defense in one-on-one situations outside. The game plan at first was a little bit confusing. I think at times tonight the play calling really lacked. I was very critical about that on Twitter, and we'll talk about it in the podcast this week. The red zone play calling doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and we'll break that down a little bit more. I do believe that's something Colorado will try and correct coming up this week. Offensive line didn't have as good of a game as they have the last several weeks. Aaron Hagler, the redshirt freshman at right tackle, returned. Sam Crossage, who has been dealing with an injury for the better part of the year, didn't play a ton tonight. They rotated for a little while, and then Crossage ended up staying sidelined for a little bit longer than expected. Hagler gave up a couple of big sacks to this UCLA team. Sefo got crushed, blindsided in this game after Hagler got beat off the right side. Came back, Montez came into the game in that first half, threw an interception, then Sefo Liufau starts the second half, and the Buffaloes did what they needed to tonight, and that's the bottom line. Most important for Colorado, they got done what they needed to, and that's winning football games in November. These are the football games that people remember for a reason. These are the gold games, as Coach Mike McIntyre said after the game. These are the games they mark on the schedule as the most important of the year, and that was the first of their final 4. They go on the road next week and give Rich Rod and Arizona a chance to play spoiler, which is never something you want to do, but it's a big week of practice. The Buffs have to break down this film and figure out what it was that went wrong, shake this game off in general. It was very uncharacteristic from Colorado to have all those penalties, especially the bad dead ball personal foul penalties, and the Buffs will get that corrected. They travel to Tucson next week. Make sure you tune in to No Bull, Just Buffs this upcoming week and weekend as we get you ready and break down this 20-10 win over the UCLA Bruins. Colorado is 7-2, 5-1 in conference. There is not much more that you can ask for if you are a Buffs fan. And tonight, attendance only 43,000. I've had several people, I believe 6 to 7 now, tell me that ticket prices are too high, $130 to $150 to sit in the lower level. The Buffs return home to play the Washington State Cougars after going on the road next weekend to Arizona. So I'll be very interested to see if they can get above 43,000. If they're sitting at 8-2 by the time they return back to this field right here. There should be a lot more people in this stadium. For 5280 Sports Network, we really appreciate you tuning in. Another big win for the Buffs. I am Matt Smith. Thank you as always for your time. Hello and welcome to the T-Mobile Arena. I am Matt Smith for 5280 Sports Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, the 2017 Pac-12 basketball tournament has a champion. The number 2 Arizona Wildcats come out victorious as they take down the number 1 seeded Oregon Ducks 83-80 tonight. A very good basketball game that really tightened up and got exciting in that second half. Arizona came into this tournament, this conference tournament, with the most to prove in this conference, and they certainly did that. 3 games in 3 days in very good fashion, and the Arizona Wildcats most likely secured a 2 seed to the NCAA tournament. Seeding for Oregon and UCLA will get decided tomorrow on Selection Sunday, but tonight's game was a very good one once again from Arizona defensively. In the first half, Arizona in the first half limited this Oregon team to 34% from the field, 12% from the three-point line. In fact, Arizona was the best team in three-point field goal percentage defense in the tournament, holding 3 straight opponents. 21% overall. Very impressive stuff from Arizona on the perimeter defensively. This is why they won the tournament. Their defense, when it mattered, was better than everyone else's. Now, the second half, things got a little crazy as Oregon really put the Jets on behind Tyler Dorsey and Jordan Bell. But things started out in the first half as just before game time, it was announced that Chris Boucher, a 2-time All-Pac-12 defensive team representative and certainly a key cog in this Oregon team, would miss the rest of the season with an ACL. Devastating news. Our thoughts are out to Chris Boucher, who is a very special talent, and certainly Oregon missed him tonight. But the announcement that Boucher's out was met with a very interesting move by head coach Sean Miller, who started Keanu Pinder, who normally comes off the bench, in place of Dasan Ristic, because the matchup between Markkanen and Dylan Brooks can also be very challenging. So the lineup adjustment was made there because he didn't want Markkanen to get in any early foul trouble. And Keanu Pinder, before the first media timeout, picked up 3 fouls. The Pac-12 Player of the Year and Dylan Brooks really showed up to play in that first half. 17 points, and did his best to play Superman, helping Oregon really stay in the game. At the end of the first period of play, it was 35-29, a 6-point lead for Arizona. Then in the second half, right out of the gate, the Wildcats came out very similar to the way they did the other night against Colorado. They made their first 3 buckets. They held Oregon scoreless in their first 3, and a run was made, extended the lead to about 14, and with about 15-22 left in the second half, Oregon slowly started to dwindle it down. They got into the bonus at, I think, 13 minutes, double bonus at 5 minutes. Really, the free throw line was a huge area that really helped Oregon get back into this. Also, the defense for Arizona was good, but certainly not as good as it was in probably the last 4 halves for them. Even Sean Miller afterwards said that a little disappointed in that, but at the same time, Oregon had a ton to do with it, and they certainly did. Tyler Dorsey was outstanding in the second half. Again, Arizona doing a very good job on another elite Pac-12 guard in the first half. Just 2 points, 1 for 5 from the field, but in the second half, Dorsey erupts for 21, Bell chips in 13, and this Oregon team really rallied from down big to make this close in that second half. A lot of credit has to go to Oregon, who was shorthanded obviously with Boucher now out for the year, and battled a good amount of foul trouble in that first half. Then in the second half, Brooks ends up fouling out of this game, just not enough to beat Arizona, who, like we spoke about yesterday, I really felt like the momentum was there and that they were the best team in this conference. They proved that tonight. They did. They beat UCLA. They beat a very good Colorado team who'd won 9 out of their last 12 heading into that game. They beat UCLA, and tonight beating Oregon, really giving them good confidence moving forward into the NCAA tournament. For Oregon, I thought the experiment in replacing Chris Boucher, Dana Altman really has to figure out what he wants to do with his rotations moving forward here. Cavell, Big B Williams, I thought tonight with some nice minutes off the bench. Keith Smith was also called upon to get some spot action for head coach Dana Altman, and I thought they did pretty well. Certainly a week in practice heading up to the NCAA tournament next week is going to be crucial for the Oregon Ducks team, but I do believe that's still a squad that can make some really, really good noise in the NCAA tournament, but losing a guy like a Boucher really hurts, especially defensively. What he gives you on the interior with Jordan Bell, it's a rare thing you find in college basketball. Jordan Bell, the Defensive Pac-12 Player of the Year, thought was very solid tonight. Moving back to Arizona as we kind of wrap up here, recapping the 2017 Pac-12 tournament as Arizona comes out victorious tonight. Alonzo Trier was spectacular. I thought about 35 minutes tonight after the first 5 minutes of this game. He was really good. Named the tournament's most outstanding player, had 23 points, 8 rebounds tonight, and what was crucial for Alonzo Trier was when Oregon cut this down to a 2-point game with 26 seconds left. They really battled hard there in the second half, but when they cut that down, Trier was able to step in and knock down big shots, not from outside, but from the free throw line. This is an Arizona team that had missed 5 consecutive free throw attempts leading down the stretch, allowing UCLA to cut it, allowing Oregon to cut it to a 2-point game. Once you see all this basketball, it all starts to blend together. To cut it to a 2-point game, then Trier comes in, knocks down 4 consecutive free throws, seals the victory, and Arizona would go on to win. The Wildcats are certainly looking very good right now. Momentum is on their side. The rest of the Pac-12 All-Tournament team representing Arizona State, Torian Graham played very well in 2 games. From Colorado, Derek White. Derek had an outstanding performance in 2 games, leading the Pac-12 tournament in scoring average, 28.5 over 2 games with 57 points. Dylan Brooks, obviously Pac-12 Player of the Year, named to the All-Tournament team. Tyler Dorsey, Lauri Markkanen, and Alonzo Trier, of course, the most outstanding player. This year was a very, very good success for the Pac-12, this conference, moving this tournament from the MGM Grand to the T-Mobile Arena, bigger venue. It was outstanding. It's a beautiful arena. It really is. Of course, the Las Vegas Golden Knights are on their way. NBA is not far behind. I can guarantee you that. This town going through a very big professional sports facelift, and tonight a very good glimpse into what a venue like this can do for the city of Las Vegas. There's a lot of positives to it. A big one that I will note is the exterior area around this building, around this arena, allows the conference to do a lot with promotions and special, advertising partners, and do different things and create a very cool Pac-12 fan plaza that got great reaction all week. I thought the entertainment was very solid, and again, another successful Pac-12 tournament for the conference, for Pac-12 networks. I really thought things went well this week. Wrapping up here, Pac-12 most likely getting 4 teams in the NCAA tournament. Of course, all 3 top 10 in Arizona, UCLA, and Oregon. USC should make it in there, and an outside shot at a 5th with Cal, but I don't think so. I don't think they have enough. Jabari Bird being out probably hurts their chances. The tournament committee will definitely look at that as well. And it'll be interesting to see what these 3 teams can do this season moving forward in March Madness. They are formidable. Arizona is really good. They're clicking at the right time. Defensively, they're defending the perimeter right now as good as anyone is in the country. And if they can build upon what they learned about themselves this week, the confidence that they took this week, Sean Miller afterwards said that their offense jumped a whole nother level in the last few days, which it definitely did. They shot over 50% for the entire tournament. If they can put up those kind of numbers and defend at a high level, they are a force to be reckoned with come NCAA tournament time, and we will figure out exactly where they are slotted come tomorrow. I've really enjoyed covering the Pac-12 tournament. I hope you've enjoyed following along here on 5280 Sports Network. From the T-Mobile Arena for the last time in Las Vegas, I am Matt Smith. Go online and follow us on our website at 5280sportsnetwork.com for all of our exclusive coverage. Also, you can check us out on Twitter at 5280sportsnet, and you can follow me at Real Matt Smith. That is Matt with one T. Until next time, thank you very much for joining us.